Welcome to Latter-day Saints, emergency podcast for the new Word of Wisdom update.
The first one is vaping and e-cigarettes. Vaping is clearly against the Word of Wisdom. Then there's a maco latte, macchiato, etc., which pretty much boiled down says if you're in a coffee shop, it probably has coffee in it, so either ask or don't get anything. Then there's one about tea, specifying that green tea and iced tea and black tea, they're all tea, and they're all against the Word of Wisdom.
I think vaping is stupid, so anything, Word of Wisdom or otherwise, to stop people doing it, it's fine by me.
I agree with the tea. I mean, that's kind of lines up with what I kind of already thought about tea. I mean, green tea and black tea, they are from the same plant, so it makes sense to me.
So Gary's European. You can speak for an entire nation here.
Especially as a Brit right now, I feel I especially speak for an entire continent of people, even though we're trying to divorce those people. The Word of Wisdom's about being healthy, right? We always focus on the tea and the coffee and the tobacco. I just wish if there was going to be a clarification of or a re-emphasizing of the Word of Wisdom, that it would go back to the basics of be healthy. You can't abstain from drinking tea but eat McDonald's every day and be morbidly obese and say you're obeying the Word of Wisdom.
It goes into reading the labels and ensuring no matter what you drink that it's not in there. It's like some drinks have tea in them but don't advertise the fact. So always check the ingredients. No matter what you drink, you always have to check the ingredients to make sure it's not there. It's like that goes completely against the spirit of the Word of Wisdom, and that's like Pharisee level, like detailed. It's so letter of the law that it takes it beyond what the intention of the Word of Wisdom is.
Yeah, because if we're going to get into the nitty gritty of checking labels in case there's a trace of tea in it, then shouldn't the guidance also be, well, let's start calorie counting, let's start counting your sugars, let's start counting your cholesterol. I mean, if we want to get nitty-gritty about the Word of Wisdom and be
how much meat do you eat?
Yeah, should we start weighing how much meat we eat? Because, I mean, that's in the Word of Wisdom. Why do we dwell so much on the tea and coffee?
Yeah,
I don't know. It just feels like it gets a disproportionate amount of attention. I'm sure other people must be looking at it and thinking, bit odd that, it's a bit weird.
I do worry when like a non-member comes to visit and they want to check our church out and someone over the pulpit's griping about tea and coffee for 30 minutes. And they're like, I came here to learn about Jesus.
The gospel.
Yeah, it's like if the gospel is like this, then the tea and coffee is like this tiny little pebble down here in the bottom somewhere. It's like it just doesn't deserve that much attention, I don't feel.
I think the point is you should not knowingly drink coffee or tea, but there's also no reason to go overboard with ensuring that nothing has any trace of it. Oh, it was just made in the same factory that processed coffee beans, then I cannot have it. That's too much.
Because there's like, in the gospel, with the many do's and don'ts, it's really easy to stray from the guidance you've been given in any form. It could be anything from you haven't been reading your scriptures, you haven't been doing your family home evening, you haven't been doing service, you haven't been doing your home ministering. There's lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of things you could do wrong, but oh geez, if you accidentally have a cafe shot in that drink, you better go chat with your bishop and hand in that recommend. It's like, yeah, sure, okay, fine, have it. It can be a principle and a rule, but does your salvation really hang on this hot beverage?
Yeah, I think one of the things is, when it comes to the Word of Wisdom is a commandment, like a lot of other commandments. As people, we are imperfect and we're constantly falling short. A large number of things, though, are left up to us personally to take care of. Those things don't necessarily keep you out of the temple because you slipped up once. You're able to repent on your own and still be temple worthy. And I wonder if, the Word of Wisdom, it's like, I get that we need to be following it to do those principles, but if you slip up and have a drink that you didn't know that coffee was in it, should that keep you out of the temple? Me personally, I say no.
And with the changes, like you said, to our church, come follow me, it does feel like more accountability on the individual. And then now we're reading labels. It feels like that it went backwards.
Yeah. To be fair, though, they're asking us to read the labels, so the accountability is still with us.
I just feel like Jesus wouldn't be in Walmart reading the labels on the rice-a-roni. Like, what is that?
Yeah, and I get that, technically it probably wouldn't keep you out if something like that happened, but I feel like even...
But you know what you say about it does though, right? You hear about people, you hear about someone...
It depends on the bishop, right? It's one of these things so they just came out with this clarification, and I guarantee you there's going to be a large number of people that take this clarification as a super strict letter of the law interpretation of you are not temple worthy if you break any of these guidelines that are in this new article,
you're right? I just feel if you want to double down on the word of wisdom, then like go all out. Like no tea, coffee... Eat meat sparingly / be a vegetarian. You've got to be able to do like an 8-minute mile. Your cholesterol's got to be within certain levels. You've got to have your blood pressure within certain levels. You've got to get so much hours of sleep. You've got to drink so much water. Like, no, seriously, if you're going to double down, let's double down. Like, I'd be all for it. I'd literally be all for it. I'd be all for, like, part of the recommend being a physical or, like, a note from your doctor saying your health. I'd be down with that. I say this is what Joseph Smith was talking about. The fact that we sit down and say, drink tea or coffee. Like, you see some people... Like, I'm not being rude or anything, but you've seen some of those people in the temple. Yeah, I bet they don't drink tea or coffee, but they're no stranger to Dunkin' Donuts. And that's not what the word of wisdom's about.
The bishop's secretary has a body fat pincher before you go in. Fail.
Oh my goodness.
That's what I'm saying. If we're going to do it, let's do it properly.
Let's move on to a couple of these other ones. Alright, so the vaping and e-cigarettes. So I summed up that the kind of conclusion is that vaping is clearly against the word of wisdom. And I clearly and highly disagree with that statement. And I don't think that statement was actually made with a lot of thought in it. Because if you think about what the word of wisdom specifies, it specifies no tobacco. And what this article here, it just talks about how study shows that nearly 2/3 of teens that use e-cigarettes, they thought that the pods they were vaping only contained flavored. But, in fact, most of them contain nicotine along with other harmful chemicals. So harmful chemicals is in no way what the word of wisdom is talking about. Energy drinks have harmful chemicals. There's lots of sodas that have harmful chemicals. There's a lot of harmful chemicals that exist in lots of foods that when it comes to vaping, I mean, I agree that, yeah, teens don't always know that there's nicotine in it. And I agree that that's a bad thing, but that's not the word of wisdom. I think that if there exists a vaping pod that has no addictive substance in it, that to me, that's clearly not against the word of wisdom because it's not tobacco. I don't get that.
I agree, but let's face it, if you're vaping, you're a douchebag, so someone should tell you not to do it. Story. Be it, your bishop or your friend or your teacher or your parents, someone should tell you it's a douchebag thing to do. Yeah. The medical marijuana's on here as well, right?
Yes. Yeah, I really don't like this, because whoever drafted this section doesn't know anything about marijuana. They take marijuana and they lump it in with other opioids. So pretty much they're saying, like Vicodin and Oxycontin, those things, when you're addicted to it, they're against the word of wisdom. But if you have a surgery and the doctor prescribes it and you use it under the right way, then you're fine. That's pretty much what they say about marijuana. And they specify that marijuana is an addictive substance. False, wrong,
yeah, that's just not true. That's not true. And I'm speaking from experience here. That's just not true. I'm not saying smoking marijuana is a good idea anyway, but to say it's addictive is just completely false. It's not at all addictive.
Yeah. And it's not addictive. They say it's habit forming.
And maybe it's habit forming, but it's not addictive. There's no chemical addiction there.
Well, let's look at habit forming. What else is habit forming? Oh, well, I like playing
scratching the nuts.
I like playing video games. Playing video games is habit forming because I like to do it. It's like, I like going to the beach because I like the sun and the water. So I go to the beach all the time. It's habit forming. Why? Because you like it. It's not addictive. This is the only argument they have as to why legalized marijuana would be against the word of wisdom. Then to me, this clearly proves that it's not against the word of wisdom because all the reasoning and all the logic is completely false. And here's another thing with medical marijuana, like medical uses are being studied, right? It's being studied. So when has studies ever swayed the meaning of the word of wisdom? It's like it's never been a go-to, the studies have shown this, and so therefore, word of wisdom. It's always been the opposite. Even if a study should say that drinking alcohol is good for your health, we still wouldn't do it. That's what the word of wisdom has been about, so it doesn't matter.
And this has to be taken in the context of everything that's going on politically right now. Not to get political, but Utah last year had their vote on, was it Proposition 2? And the state voted in favor of allowing medical marijuana. And then, of course, that douchebag governor they have out there decided to throw democracy down the toilet and not to implement it.
Them lumping this in the same category as opioids, I just don't agree.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's not the same.
It's not addictive. If there's a small subset of people that it's addictive to, well, you know what? Caffeine's addictive. You can drink Dr. Pepper every day and it can be addictive, but it's not against the word of wisdom. So addiction alone doesn't cut it.
Yeah. Going to church can be addictive.
I mean, if the prophet were to come out and say it was revelation that marijuana is against the word of wisdom, you know what? That would satisfy it, because that would be a revelation. Because the whole point about revelation is you don't have to have a reason for revelation. We don't have to have a reason why alcohol is on the list of the things that you shouldn't have with the word of wisdom. I mean, that's the whole kind of the beauty of the word of wisdom, is that with revelation, you don't need a reason. But here, you have all this stuff that's not specifically on the word of wisdom, but that they're trying to reason about, and the reasoning is so flawed, and that's what really gets me.
I agree
right?
with that.
At the same time, I'm assuming this is signed off from the first presidency, so in a way...
Yeah, but that's not the same.
But they got to sign off on lots of things, right? Every day, they're probably signing papers.
Having a drafted statement not prepared by them that they sign off on, that's not the same as direct revelation.
They're signing off stuff all the time. When you're in one of those positions where you're approving things, eventually it's prove it, get out the way.
Yeah, an approved Ensign article is not the same as an official statement from the first presidency. And then if there was an official statement from the first presidency that specifically stated that marijuana and vaping are against the word of wisdom, they would not need to add explanation.
All right, so in closing, this comes from the brethren who we sustain, so we will obey.
We will obey. We won't smile or be happy about it, but we'll obey. Ours is not to question why.
The reasoning is flawed. Yeah.
Oh, okay.